Yes, we are live. Is it time for McLaren to favour and prioritise Lando Norris for the last two Grand Prix to ensure that a McLaren driver does actually win the World Drivers' Championship? Now they're under serious threat from Max Verstappen, only 24 points behind. He's on equal points to Oscar Piastri. Former F1 driver Ralf Schumacher has been stirring the pot, saying, now is the time. This is the time that McLaren need to act. We're going to be talking about it on tonight's live stream. This is your daily F1 news. I am Tony Craig, and if you're an F1 fan, you're in the right place. You're in the right place here at F1 Grandstand. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. If you do enjoy the video at any point, smash a like on it, and if you would like to keep up to date, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of our content. How are you all doing tonight? I tell you what, it is bloody freezing today in the UK. I'm going to say hello to the chat. Hey Kyle, hey Legend, hey Gemma, queen of the chat. Gemma, how you doing? Yeah, today, I don't know about you, it was like I had to get my big coat on, and if you're in the UK, you'll know what I mean when I say your big coats. You know, when you have to go out to work and it's cold and everyone has the big coat that comes out in November. Well, my big coat came out today. Get in the chat, tell me if you're wearing your big coat. But I tell you, who's going to need a big coat in Qatar? Qatar this weekend. So the reason why people are now saying, I mean, a lot of people do think that Lando Norris has been favoured by McLaren, you know, for the last second half of this season. That's how they explain Oscar Piastri's downturn in form, mistakes he's been making. Oscar's saying comments like, well, I'm not doing anything different. I just don't know what's going on. He's almost, and then you got Max Verstappen saying, I wouldn't have it. There's definitely something going on in that team. All the psychological games. But whether you think McLaren have been purposefully kind of nerfing Oscar Piastri and sort of creating an environment for Lando Norris to flourish, regardless of that, that might be true. What we're really going to be talking about is there's two Grand Prix left. McLaren absolutely cocked up in Vegas, didn't they? I mean, to get both cars disqualified was just, I mean, pretty unforgivable. Opened the door a little bit more for Max Verstappen, who's now on equal points with Oscar Piastri on, 366 points. So the threat really is now Lando, who's only got a 24-point lead, and there's 58 points up for grabs, because don't forget, Qatar is a sprint race weekend. So McLaren are under more threat than ever. So is it time for McLaren to turn around and say, look, Oscar, I need you to, you've got to be the backup dancer now to Lando Norris. We need you to play the team game. Is it time? Should they do that? Should McLaren do that? I know Zach Brown said, I would rather our drivers lose to Max Verstappen than have to tell one of the drivers, you're not winning the World Driver Championship, whilst it's mathematically possible. But that was when there was only 1 point between them. Now there's 24 points between them and 2 races left, and Max Verstappen is on a charge. So is it sensible team orders now for McLaren to go, look, the World Drivers' Championship, I think we can all agree, is actually 10 times more valuable than the Constructors. I mean, everyone remembers who's won the Drivers' Championship, but lots of people forget who's won the Constructors. So I'm going to go to the article. So this is coming out from Racing News 365. And Ralf Schumacher has quite aggressively said that it's time for McLaren to bring out the team orders. And I'm interested to know what you think. So McLaren are told to prioritise Lando Norris because of the double disqualification and the fact that Max Verstappen is gaining ground. McLaren have been implored to back Lando Norris in the F1 Drivers' Championship fight now that Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen are tied just 24 points adrift of the British driver. So Ralf Schumacher's called on McLaren to throw its weight behind Lando Norris in the F1 Drivers' Championship with just 2 rounds remaining. And this is basically what he said. I'm curious to see what happens. in my view, Norris should now be given priority, and Piastri needs to support him. God, it's a big ask though for Piastri if Piastri's thinking the team are already favouring Lando. And Schumacher goes on. He said, overtaking is difficult in Formula One, especially in Qatar, because of the many long sweeping corners. Therefore, qualifying has to be spot on. Personally, I believe there's a very good chance it will be decided in Qatar in McLaren's favour. Max can be fast there. We know he's won there twice, 23 and 24, I think. But due to the warmer temperatures, McLaren should be significantly faster than they were in other Grand Prix. Accordingly, while I'm happy for Max, I don't think it's going to happen this year. So basically what Ralf Schumacher is saying is there is a threat from Max. The McLaren should perform well in Qatar, and qualifying is king. Well, as Lando is in, first position in McLaren, he's going to get all the benefits of that anyway. He's going to get to go out. He's going to get to choose when he goes out in Q3. So McLaren have already got structures in place, which are sort of performance related. But is it time that they really now need to do things like Red Bull, like Lauren McKees is making decisions on the Red Bull wall for Max Verstappen, literally saying to Yuki Tsunoda, you're running this setup. We know it's not going to, because we need to get the data for Max's car. Literally, Yuki is the sacrificial lamb to help Max Verstappen get every advantage he needs to try and mount a challenge for the World Drivers' Championship. So that's really what is happening. But here's my poll for tonight. And here, I'm going to put it up there now. So the poll is, simple question. Is it time? Yeah, sorry. My typing's terrible. Oh, we're sorry. I type with like two fingers. Right. And it's a yes or no. Is it time to prioritize Lando over Piastri? Start poll. Yeah. Hey, Sema. Hey, all in. Hey, Chef. I'm going to go to the chat. So, yeah, Super Wolf, we got all in saying no, Piastri should not help and they should give him his proper car back. Also, I think by contract, as long as Piastri mathematically can be champion, he won't help Lando. Well, that's what Zach Brown has been saying all along. Whilst there is a mathematical chance of either driver to win, there's not going to be any team orders. But they are, and when he talked about what happened in 2007, which is obviously Lewis Hamilton's against Fernando Alonso, all of that debacle, they're fighting it out. And then in the end, Kimi Raikkonen nicked it by 1 point. Now, if they had prioritised either driver, and both drivers had a case, Fernando did get some preferential treatment at McLaren. They did hold Lewis in longer pit stops. There was some interference with McLaren, but ultimately, that interference stopped either driver winning the World Championship. But that was so. But what Zach Brown said in 2007, he would rather have a 2007 situation where both drivers lose, and in that case, in 2007, it was Raikkonen that won, than have to tell one driver that they're not winning the World Drivers' Championship. But things are a bit different now. McLaren messed up, didn't they, in Las Vegas? They got both cars disqualified because of an engineering decision, which was to run the car at a ride height that was too low. So they've opened up this gap. They've closed the gap between themselves and Max Verstappen. So even though they don't want to do team orders, is it the sensible thing for McLaren to do? Just to hold off the challenge from Max Verstappen. I mean, what would you do? Even though you wanted to intend to give both drivers to the end of the season to fight it out, there's 58 points left on the table. in the last 2 Grand Prix, and there's only 24 points in it. I mean, I know it's unlikely that Max wins, but it is possible. Wouldn't you want to mitigate that risk, even if it wasn't what you intended to do? I mean, I'm trying to think what I would do if I was a team boss at McLaren, even if I didn't want to. Yes, I'm going to go back to the chat. So All In Triplex says yes, but no. So Max can win. Yeah. So you're saying if you were team boss, Triplex, are you saying that if you were team boss at McLaren, you would say, listen, we've got to do everything we can to help Lando win the World Drivers' Championship if you were the team boss. But because you want Max to win, you'd say, don't do that. Is that what you're saying? Shaitan says there is a chance now we could possibly witness McLaren choke the Drivers' Championship due to their own... Exactly, that's the point, Shaitan. That's it. If you suddenly realise, if you're Zach Brown and go, wow, we've messed up so badly here that we could literally be throwing this away by trying to be so fair with our drivers, and also with the mistakes they've made with the ride height and getting both drivers disqualified in Vegas. Surely to correct that mistake, they're going to have to go, they can't really allow Max to take the championship, can they? I mean, if you're the sponsors and the money people going into McLaren or the shareholders, you're going to be like on the phone to Zach Brown going, I know you're saying about both drivers, but listen, like, stop that. We need guarantee that one of the drivers wins the World Drivers' Championship. All the kudos in Formula One is the drivers winning it. You know, that's where the power is. That's where the headlines are. You know, you need one of your drivers to become world champion. And that's just the facts. That's just how it is. And if you're McLaren and you're an investor in McLaren, you're an owner of shares in McLaren, you know, it doesn't matter what Zach Brown says as team principal. You're going to be on the phone going, hey, this is getting a bit close for comfort here. Max Verstappen's on equal points with Oscar, and you've only got 24 points lead with Lando. Shouldn't you be doing something to mitigate this risk? Like, rather than just let them race, like, there's billions of dollars at stake here. You know, and how many, I mean, I wonder what the impact is. If McLaren have a McLaren driver that wins the World Drivers' Championship, in the olden days, Enzo Ferrari said, winning the Formula One World Championship, having one of your drivers win it, had a direct effect on car sales, road car sales for Ferrari. Now, surely that has to be taken into consideration, right, at McLaren. And I just don't know whether Zach Brown can stick to his word here. And I can see from the poll results so far, it's 50-50. And I know this lends itself into the conversation that some people might say that, and they might be right, and I think I agree with them, that McLaren would prefer Norris as their world champion. I think there's a bigger net benefit to McLaren having Norris as the world champion over Piastri. And I think there is that bias, there is that preference. Even though they've tried to work against that bias maybe and tried to keep it fair, I use the example. I got slated for this, but I did use the example. I don't know how many of you got kids, but it's sometimes one of your kids is your favourite kid, right? Maybe one of them, you love them both, but maybe one of them is just a bit kinder and a bit nicer and a bit more helpful, and another one's getting in trouble a bit more and causing you a few more dramas. And does everyone have a favourite kid at different times? And I think Lando's the favourite kid. I think Lando brings a bigger net benefit to McLaren if he's the World Drivers' Champion. I think the sponsors get more out of that. I think McLaren get more out of it. I think they sell more cars off the back of it. I think it does more for their investor relations, especially with Lando's dad, who is a massive investor in McLaren. So yeah, I think all this stuff comes into play. But even if you ignore that, there's 2 races left. What is the right decision? Removing emotion out of it. What decision do you make as team principal? Yeah. So I like All-In's comment here. He says, by contract, Piastri doesn't have to help Lando, and he shouldn't. And that's a good point. Their contracts, neither contract says that they are a number 2 driver. Both driver contracts are the same. Not necessarily the same money, but there's nothing in the contract that says you are the number 2 driver. Both drivers are supposed to be on equal footing, and that is a good point. But does that really stop you from being a team player if the team asks you? Do you really turn around to your team and go, nah, I know, I'm still going for it, you know? And I know if Oscar Piastri does that. Oscar Piastri wants his team to back him and to help him become world champion. You got to remember, it's only Piastri's 3rd season. I'm sure he's not thinking, this is my only chance to become world champion. He's probably thinking longer term. He's a young guy. He's got a long Formula 1 career ahead of him. And if he wants that in McLaren, he's probably thinking, look, maybe I would help Lando this time. I don't know. Chef, nice to have you in the chat, Chef. Despite what McLaren say, they will quietly enforce team orders in order to take the driver's title. Now we're getting to the truth, Chef. Now we're getting to the nitty gritty. And this is what I'm trying to get at. Like, they might continually give this PR narrative is that there are no team orders, both teams are racing. But there's so much money behind the team. There's so many investors, sponsors, where having the world driver champion matters so much that they won't allow the team to just race it out and not. They want reassurances that their money's safe. You know, they're backing this team. And yes, they've won the Constructors, which is great. But every sponsor knows the Drivers' Championship is it. So the amount of pressure at sort of head office level for McLaren, investor level for McLaren Racing, I think Chef's right. I think there are conversations that are going on down murky little corridors that say, don't F this up, especially after Vegas. You know, I wouldn't surprise me that some shadowy figure hasn't had Zach Brown in a corridor and gone, don't F this up. We need to win the Drivers' Championship. And there's 2 races left. It's getting tight. Now's the time. So I think Chef's onto something. And All-In says, I'm really against the way Lando wins this. McLaren sales in UK up, McLaren sales in the world down. I actually think that's a good point. McLaren sales in UK up, maybe in America up. Do I think, regardless, even if there's no official team orders and McLaren wins, I do think Lando wins. I do feel that Lando, if he wins the World Drivers' Championship, there's going to be this stain over it where such a huge part of the Formula 1 fan base think that McLaren have already favoured Lando and already believe that it's so inconceivable for Oscar Piastri to have the drop-off that he has had since the midway point of the season. It's like Max Verstappen said it. It's sort of inconceivable that you can go from a 36-point lead to being now a 24-point gap between your teammate. I mean, in such a short space of time. I mean, it's almost inconceivable that a driver who is just, in his words, he's not doing anything different. Oscar doesn't think he's doing anything different. He's got the EBGBs now in his mind. He's like, what the hell's going on? He's always stood up for the team. He's never said directly, the team have, you know, are giving me a bad car, they're giving me a bad engine, you know, they're slowing me down, which we've had. I mean, do you remember Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna when they both drove for McLaren? Was it, I want to say 85-ish. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say around 1985. Somewhere, or maybe it was 87. 87 maybe. Anyway, in the 80s, Prost, Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, the greatest rivals, some of the greatest rivals in Formula 1 history, both driving for McLaren. And Senna was quicker. He got way more poles than Alain Prost. He won the World Drivers' Championship that year when Alain Prost left McLaren. And all Alain Prost would say after every race is that I've got a worse car. They're giving Senna a better car. He has preferential treatment. And Ron Dennis was like, we're not doing that, right? He was the team principal at McLaren at the time. He's like, we're not doing that, Alan. But he was convinced. He'd got it in his head, the EBGBs. And then what happens is he isn't as quick as Senna. Senna wins the world championship. He out-qualifies Prost all the time, in most Grand Prix. And it's the EBGBs. And is that what... Is that what is happening with Oscar Piastri? Because, I mean, you're talking over a 50-point swing. To be 30, I think he was 36 points ahead at one point to a 24-point... no, was he 32 points or 36? It was over 30 points ahead anyway, right? And he's now 24 points behind. I mean, I think it's a 58-point swing, which is crazy. How do you explain that? So Oscar Piastri's got these EBGBs, and now does Oscar Piastri just want to get has he already resigned himself to the fact that this isn't his year, and he will play the number 2 role? But that's the poll tonight. Is it time for McLaren to fully back Lando, make Piastri follow team orders, and just ensure that Lando Norris wins the World Drivers' Championship? Only true. Nice to have you in the chat. The FIA made a disqualification to make more drama. Oh, I love this. I love this. Because speaking of the FIA's involvement and race stewardship, it's not like we haven't seen this before, is it? Do we think that cars, especially with the plank wear, where some cars have been on the limit and they get away with it. Some cars, like the FIA, can control a narrative, can't they? Now, the worst we've ever seen, 2021, Hamilton versus Verstappen. I mean, if that's not... I mean, honestly, if that wasn't the FIA trying to control the narrative, I don't know what is. Like the steward allowing the... So if you cut... I'm just going to quickly inform what happened in 2021. Just so we can give credence to what Only True is saying. So in 2021, comes down to the last Grand Prix of the season. Verstappen, whoever wins out of Hamilton or Verstappen, wins the World Drivers' Championship. Lewis gets out in front. Safety car. Verstappen comes into pit. All bunched up behind the safety car at this point, and there are 5 back markers because Verstappen put new tyres on between Verstappen and Hamilton. Okay, there's basically going to be 1 lap left of the Grand Prix. Lewis is in good shape. Now, the rules of a safety car are you're supposed to let every car unlap themselves. Okay, that's to the letter of the law. Now, this was weird. This was a weird decision. So under the safety car conditions, after they cleared the accident, they only allowed the 5 cars between Verstappen and Hamilton to unlap themselves, which meant Verstappen was right on Lewis Hamilton's gearbox on the restart. So which was really a crazy decision, and it was manipulation at the highest order. And there's 1 lap left, and of course Lewis is on old tyres. And what happens? Verstappen on new rubber gets past Lewis Hamilton, and Lewis is robbed, basically. However you look at it, that was the race stewards controlling that narrative. And even the other back markers, the other cars that were lapped, which weren't allowed to unlap themselves, were like, hang on, what the hell's going on here? So we know what Only True's saying there about the FIA making decisions on race weekends to create drama. And then you got, Stefano Domenicali saying it's all about the event, almost saying they want Formula 1 to become like WWE, which is, not what we want. The drama comes from real racing, real competition. When you're watching a tennis match at Wimbledon, you don't want it to be fake. Or you're watching a boxing match, you're watching a football match. No, you just want good competition. Motorsport is no different. But yeah, I understand what Only True's saying there. However, the only thing I'd say about the disqualification in Vegas is the actual measurements were done in front of the stewards and under 3 representatives from McLaren, and the measurements didn't lie. They were 8.72, 8.76, 8.96, which were all below the required 9mm threshold for the plank wear. So, letter of the law says there are no. It's black and white. It's like it's either legal or illegal, and the punishment for illegal is disqualification. There's nothing in between. There's no other penalties that have been. There's no precedent's been set. It's either illegal or legal, and so those were the measurements. And so only true saying, read the documents. They even admitted that they measured twice and got different results from the first measurement. FIA making 2025 like so yeah, that's what I was talking about. So FIA, so basically he was saying the FIA control the narrative like they did in 2021, and that's what I was just explaining about what happened with Lewis Hamilton. Only True says, I think that the instrument is not calibrated because it's impossible to get different results after 2 measurements. Why was there not a third one? It's a good point, because I've got, well, just on that, I've got document 58, and do you know what's interesting? If you look at this, I actually have a copy of document 58 from the official Las Vegas document, and nowhere in that document have they said measurements were taken twice, which I find strange, because if there were discrepancies, they should be in the official FIA document that you've got on your screen right there. So, and they also say the calibration of the device was to, as Kyle's just mentioned, 0001. And it's all in the documents on your screen right now. So I'm unsure exactly about the measured twice, should have measured 3 times. That is the official document from the FIA and the whole report. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, if there was a discrepancy and they did measure twice, I haven't seen evidence of that. And I certainly think that McLaren themselves, in their argument, the only argument, as you saw in that document, that McLaren said was the mitigating circumstances, what they objected to was because of the weather. Basically, they weren't able to have a good practice session. Qualifying, they didn't really learn much because the weather was so bad. So yeah, I'm unsure about that claim. But yeah, going off the official document, that the measurements looked all under 9mm, and it's binary. It's legal, illegal, and unfortunately that meant illegal. And I think the big problem was that McLaren just got it wrong. They just got it wrong. They gambled when they didn't need to gamble. They went for a ride height for performance, and they should have erred on the side of caution. Which brings me actually to the next point. And the next point is that because of that disqualification, in Qatar, we may get a slightly compromised McLaren. Because they cannot afford to risk having illegal plank wear again. So I think they will run that car slightly higher than they perhaps would have done, because to ensure that car is legal by the end of the race. Another disqualification changes. I mean, Max, you're basically handing Max the title at that point. You're taking down to the wire. And like what Only True says, if there is a conspiracy theory going on, it's not even a conspiracy theory. The FIA, right, because they're putting on the show, would obviously prefer it to come down to the last race. The drama's good for the sport. So for them, of course they shouldn't manipulate it, but their bias is, get it down to the final race. Of course that's what they want. Hey Mark, welcome to the chat, my friend. Just got in from work, watching on Rewind. Lovely. Brilliant. Enjoy it, my friend. It's a contentious one tonight. We do have a poll running. Is it time for McLaren to back Lando to ensure that World Driver Championship? But their cars are not going to be as quick in Qatar. Even though it's going to favour Qatar, I think they will run their car slightly higher than normal, and they will lose some performance. Max is going to go for it. He's going to, and the thing about Max's car is Max's car looked balanced, didn't it, in Vegas? Max was obviously on fire with the way he was driving. But that Red Bull has never been disqualified, has it, for a ride height problem? They managed to solve their ride height issue midway through the season, didn't they? Maybe about Monza. Sema, we'll catch the replay at TC and chat till next. Hey, Sema, lovely to have you in the chat. You've just got up. You just got out of bed in Australia. Go and get your coffee. We're talking about your guy. We're talking about Piastri. You like this one? Or maybe you won't, actually. As a Piastri fan, this one you're not going to like too much. You're probably not going to like too much. So Only True says, Lando needs a podium place and fourth in sprints. Yeah, so they can't make the same mistake. That car cannot be illegal. Because if the FIA are going to try and disqualify Lando's car, if they could, they would, right? Because they want it to come down to the final race of the season. So, yeah, I actually believe that the FIA might just be looking a little bit harder at Lando's car. But they can't make something up that isn't true, right? They can't just say something's illegal if it isn't. That's what I think. But will they be looking for something illegal on Lando's car? I dare say they would, because it's, for them, it's great. It takes the story down to the final race. And of course, that's what the FIA want. Kyle says, if Alpine could figure out the ride height, McLaren should have. No one was sparking like the McLarens. And that's the bit, honestly, I've shown you this picture before, but this picture should have, I've still got it, yeah. Look at this. I mean, no one else in Vegas was doing that. The clue should have been in the watching of that. And that was happening so much. Normally the Ferraris are sparking like hell. But yeah, crazy. I mean, it's great in a nighttime race though, isn't it? It looked fantastic. It looked fantastic. But yeah, but that's the thing. It's McLaren are going to play safe. Lando will be happy with a podium. He'll take 2 podiums, won't he? You know what I mean? It's Lando's to lose. And who knows, Oscar Piastri, if he can be competitive, if you can get Lando qualifying, and Oscar Piastri qualifying quite well. Here's the thing, even if Piastri's not on form and he's P5, at some point, all they need to do is keep Piastri out on track and have Max pit. And when Max pits, as long as Oscar has track position on Max Verstappen, then Oscar can become a huge nuisance for Max Verstappen. He can slow him down. He can affect the race. Yes, it means that Oscar can't be on an optimum pit strategy, but that's the help that Lando would need. It's basically, yes, Oscar, we know you need to pit, or Oscar, you're out on the hard tyre, right? We know even if Max is on the medium tyre, you're out on the hard tyre. Max is going to pit first. You're going to be slower. You might be running P6, P7, but as long as you are within 22 seconds of Max Verstappen, so when he pits, you have track position on him, and then you can be a nuisance to Max Verstappen when he comes out of the pits and affect the race. That's what they could be asking Oscar to do. And should they do that? I mean, I think they should. It sounds brutal. I think the way this season's gone, I think if I'm not thinking as a driver and I'm thinking as a McLaren team boss, I think I do that. I think I have to. I think I have to make Oscar do this. Oh, and then Triplex is saying, yeah, nice idea, but you can't slow Max down when he has fresh tyres. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, right? But surely you've got to have that. Do you remember what? And going back to 2021, right? Great example. Do you remember what Sergio Perez did when Lewis Hamilton was trying to pass him? Sergio Perez was amazing in that race in 2021. The way he blocked Hamilton, Perez needs as much credit for Max Verstappen's win in 21 as anybody, as much as the FIA. Sergio Perez was brilliant. He blocked Hamilton. It was so impressive, Perez's drive back then. So do I think Piastri could do that? Yeah, Triplex says, yeah, Sergio saved those tyres like hell, though. Well, Sergio was pretty good on tyres, to be fair. But what I'm saying is, Piastri could be a nuisance. I mean, if you really want to get conspiracy theory on this, you know, coming together, Max loses his front wing, you know, trying to overtake him. You never know, do you? I mean, if it was Horner, if Horner was team principal at McLaren, and I wouldn't put it past him to ask his driver to be in some sort of, you know, take that front wing off, take that front wing off Max's car, right? I mean, dirty games. Some team owners, team principals would be asking for that kind of participation by the number 2 driver. Yeah. So All In says, yeah, Piastri could do it. And I think but here's my question. And do you know what? It split the room. I'm going to have a look at the poll. Wow. So 20 of you have got involved, right? And so when it says, is it time to prioritise Lando over Piastri? It's 53% to 47%. I don't think we've ever had a question where it splits the room as much as this. It really does. I mean, I really like Oscar Piastri. I think he's going to be a multiple world champion. But if I'm running that team and I've got sponsors in my ear and I've got bosses at McLaren over me, I think even if it's a private team order, even if I don't say it publicly, I don't know. I know Triplex is saying Oscar won't help Lando in the slightest after McLaren practically cocked up his whole season to benefit Lando. And that's the thing, because that's a good point. Because you know what I honestly think to that, Triplex? From what I've seen of Oscar Piastri, I think Piastri would follow team. I think he would. I think he would help Lando. I think Oscar Piastri's got such a level head. Even if he thinks that he has been unfairly treated, if he thinks that his car has been nerfed, even though he can't understand why the performance has dropped off for him when he hasn't done anything different from a driver, I think Oscar Piastri at this moment in his career, I think he'd follow the team orders. I think because of the way he has protected the team every step of the way, and he sort of believes the team will help him win a World Drivers' Championship in the future. Yeah, I think he would follow the team order. I don't think he's got that in him yet to go, nah, sack it. I'm going for it. Don't care what you say. And if it's me or him, I'm still going for the win. I don't know if he's there. Especially after, I think Oscar wouldn't do it. At the moment, I think if he'd won a World Drivers' Championship himself, because drivers change when they've got a title. It's like, yeah, I can be a world champion. I am a world champion. You know, I'm going to make some different decisions. Yeah, All In says Lawson may still have a free crash ticket. I'm going to talk about Lawson in a second. Actually, that's my next topic. I've been going on about this for ages. All In, Tsunoda and Hadjar can also help Max somehow. Oh God, don't get me started on that. All In, the whole Red Bull having their sister team. I'm totally against it. And you're absolutely right. Do you think there could be some unofficial orders to Liam Lawson? And I mean, they certainly won't be helping Lando Norris, will they? Lawson, Hadjar, they're going to do as they're told. Lawson wants that Racing Bull seat for next year. So could that come into play? Maybe. But we're all watching out for that, though, aren't we? Everyone's looking for that. Everyone's looking for that kind of... Because they're not allowed to do that. You know, they're not supposed to. Red Bull are not supposed to have influence over Racing Bull on track. But we all know they do, right? But you could argue that Mercedes have got influence over teams that run their engines, or Ferrari have got influence over Haas, because Haas are running, well, 80% of that Haas car is a Ferrari. But they do. There actually is influence on these teams. Chef says, one has to consider that Piastri can only help Norris if he's ahead of Max. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Chef. This is what I'm saying, Chef. He could be ahead of Max on track after Max has gone into the pits. So how do you guarantee that happens? You put Piastri out on the hard tyre, Max starts the Grand Prix on the medium tyre. It means that Piastri can do a longer run. All Piastri has to do is stay within 22 seconds of Max. And so Piastri could be running P5, right? And still be within 22 seconds of Max. So Max comes into pit. Piastri, he comes out behind Piastri on track. Piastri has every right to keep Max behind him, even though Piastri hasn't pitted yet. So that is how they do it. That's how they do it. So he doesn't have to be as quick as Max. He just has to be within 22 seconds. And I think Piastri could do that on the hard tyre, right? So that's what they do. Only True says, imagine the end result to be Lando 425 points, Max 424 points. Do you know 3 points from Monza? Oh, yeah, exactly. Could you imagine that? Well, you know, Oscar Piastri deserves yeah. I mean that would be Piastri giving Lando the championship as well, wouldn't it? For allowing them to invert. All In says, is it the same owner in Red Bull's case? Same owner, Racing Bulls and Red Bull, yeah. Same owners. Yep. So that's why the Red Bull Academy, that's why they use Racing Bulls as their, academy team, right? Everyone gets promoted out of the Red Bull. That's why Arvid Lindblad, who's going to be promoted from F2 into the Racing Bull seat, Hadjar's going to go into the Red Bull seat alongside Max Verstappen, which means Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda are sort of battling it out for one of the Racing Bull seats. Now, that's what I was going to talk about next. So you know the poll. Keep getting involved. It's so close. It's 52-48. We'll be resolving that towards the end of the show. But the other thing I wanted to talk about briefly was Yuki Tsunoda. So I was having a look at a little bit of what Yuki's comments were after Las Vegas. I mean, I feel for him, really. This is what he was basically saying. This was Yuki's explanation for his terrible Vegas weekend. The thing is, the safety car came in right after I pitted, so it's not ideal. What we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to get out of the dirty air, but the safety car came in and multiple people just rejoined the track in front of me, so there were no points. Tsunoda said, basically, it feels like everything so far is going against me, the luck and everything. I don't like the word luck, but this weekend feels like it's really bad luck. It's a shame and frustrating that I wasn't able to use my pace until qualifying, just throwing it away. But this is the story of Yuki Tsunoda's season. Like, I was checking, this is Yuki Tsunoda, 5 seasons in Formula 1. He's never had a podium in 5 seasons. Now, I know that's not the be-all and end-all, because look at Hulkenberg, 14 years in F1 and got his first podium this year in Silverstone. But it's an interesting situation. Yuki Tsunoda's had 5 seasons. Liam Lawson's had 1.5 seasons. And those two, I think the writing's on the wall. Helmut Marko, I think, has already made his decision. And the decision, unofficially, is Yuki's done. But they're not going to tell Yuki until probably Abu Dhabi, last race of the season. Unless something magical happens between now and then, which I just don't think it will. The writing's on the wall for Yuki. It's going to be out of Formula 1. Liam Lawson, I think, will get another season. And I actually think Liam Lawson's got a lot of qualities I like in a Formula 1 driver, but those same qualities are also his downfall. He's a bit too fiery. He needs to control that temper of his and make better choices on track, crash less. But is he quick? Yeah. Is he as quick as Hadjar? Well, yeah, he is. Has he got the decision-making that Hadjar's got? Not yet. Hadjar's ahead of him on composure, making good choices at the right time on the track. Liam Lawson has got pace, though. Has he got room to grow? Yes. Is he the right choice for Racing Bulls? Yes. Do you think they should just tell Yuki the truth? Yeah, I do. All In says, I think McLaren just needs to hand a competitive car to Piastri for the last 2 races, and Lando just needs to play it safe. I would love to see if McLaren have nerfed Piastri's car and they can make his car quicker. Make his damn car quicker. I mean, 100%. And I think shame on them, because if the bias towards Lando is intentional, then shame on you, McLaren. If it's a subconscious sort of confirmation bias where they just don't even realize they're favoring Lando, then I can see that happening. But if they are actively giving Lando a better car than Piastri, if they are actively playing even the mental game with Piastri, I mean, to not even fight for Piastri's against Piastri's penalty when he clipped Kimi Antonelli and Kimi Antonelli hit Leclerc. Like, most people agree that was a racing incident. I know some people don't, to the letter of the law, but honestly, if that isn't a racing incident, then it should be a racing incident. I don't think Piastri did anything wrong there. But I do think what was wrong was that Andrea Stella didn't fight against the penalty. Just show your driver that you believe in him. You think he was right to go for the gap. There's lots of things that McLaren haven't done to help Piastri's mental health and to help him compete again. It's just been this domino effect of negativity for Piastri. And like I said, he's got the EBGBs. You want to help him get away from the EBGBs, right? You want to try and get him. You want him to bring his best. Only True says Michael Massey, 3 years as race director, 67 times safety car deployed, 19 times out of 67 with lapped cars, 18 out of 19 times all lapped cars released with an extra 1 lap. Wow. Well, there you go. That's a great statistic. So it was only in 2021 that he chose to do something different. I mean, the FIA have been doing this forever. 1984, Monaco Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna lapping 4 seconds a lap quicker in that wet race in P2, chasing down Alain Prost. Ballesteri, the French, well, it was actually the FIA president equivalent. It was called something else then. It was Visa, I think. And they ordered the race controller, which was Jackie Ickx, to stop the race. Now, Jackie Ickx stopped the race, and then he got thrown under the bus for it. And they said he shouldn't have stopped the race. But they did that to ensure that Alain Prost did not lose his race win. And it was ridiculous. And that was in 1984. And then in 2021, we had a situation where interference can decide the outcome of a world championship. It shouldn't be happening. And Lewis was robbed. And no wonder he's not going to stop until he gets 8 World Drivers' Championship. No wonder, because if it was me, I'd be like, F you. I don't care how old I am. I ain't leaving till I've got the 8th. Because I'm not having someone tell me what I can and can't achieve. I'm not having you control the narrative. Just like Senna did at Suzuka when he crashed into Alain Prost to ensure he won the World Drivers' Championship. Because that's what Alain Prost did to him at Suzuka the year before. No, and then what was worse the year before was when Ayrton Senna recovered from the crash, overtook 5 cars to win the Grand Prix, and then Ballesteri again, because he didn't want Ayrton Senna to win that World Championship, said that he didn't like the way he entered the racetrack from the runoff area. Said it was a dangerous maneuver and they got him disqualified. Disgusting. They shouldn't have this power, right? It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. And yeah, as fans, we shouldn't allow that to happen. But they're always gonna have their biases to want it to win. But going back to Lando, concerning Lando, Orlin says, concerning Lando, I really think Lando deep back in his head really wants to beat Max. We cannot rule out a crash between these two. We get Piastri back in the championship. Well, if there was how could it become a 3-way situation? Well, we could enter. I mean, the most exciting result for the fans would be Lando doesn't finish, and we get a 1-2 Max and Piastri 1-2, right? Piastri finishes first, Max second, and then that would be the ideal result. for the FIA and for the fan, really, in Qatar, then all three drivers comes down to the final race, right? Winner takes all. Whoever wins that race wins. That would be brilliant for the neutral or for just the F1 fan. That would be brilliant. But we're asking for a lot, aren't we? We're asking for a mechanical failure on Lando's car. Triplex says now drivers rarely even get a 5-second penalty for joining the track dangerously. It's true, they don't. And when you watch what he did, and about the Senna situation at Suzuka, I think it was 80. I want to say 80. I want to say, when was it? 87, 8 or 89, 90. I can't remember the dates exactly, but you'll Google it, you'll find out. And at Suzuka, and the way he rejoined the track and he got disqualified. In the driver's briefing for the following year at Suzuka, all drivers said that was ridiculous. He shouldn't have been. That is the safest way to rejoin the racetrack. So then the following year they said, okay, you can rejoin the racetrack in the way that Senna did it and you won't be disqualified. I mean, it cost him his world championship. I mean, it was brutal. Absolutely brutal. Yeah. So Triplet says most exciting is all of them within 6 points. Winner takes it all. I agree. If that happens in Qatar, you know what? I mean, yeah, that will. Hey Sal, welcome to the chat. Alpine takeover update. Well, at the moment, Alpine. So the Alpine situation was Horner was about to sign papers, and right now. There's been an intervention from Aston Martin. Lawrence Stroll's furious with Andy Cowell from Vegas, ruining Lance Stroll's qualifying by putting him on the intermediates. It's all been kicking off. Also, there's been a problem between Newey and Cowell. So Cowell's gone. He's done. Cowell's out as team principal. If he's out of Aston Martin completely, we don't know, but he's not going to be team principal. So Lawrence Stroll's going to replace him. Horner's now in the chat. Is a deal going to be done? We don't know. Does that mean there's a pin in Alpine? Because Horner's going to do one or the other. He's not going to not come back to the grid. The reason why the Alpine deal got to the wire is because Aston Martin, you thought, was off the table. Aston Martin's only become back on the table this week. But for Horner, would he prefer Aston Martin? Well, yeah, he would, because it's a newly designed car. It's a Honda engine. They're probably good to go for a win next season. They're going to be competitive. Alpine's probably a 4-year project to take them from where they are now to a championship winning team. It took him 4 years with a Red Bull. When they took over Jaguar, they were not a good team, right? 4 years to turn that team into a championship winning team with Red Bull. And Alpine's in the same spot, I'd say. With Aston Martin, they could be a championship winning team next year. So that's the update. We're waiting for more news as it comes out. So as soon as we've got it though, Sal, trust me, there will be more. And you will see it here on this channel on F1 Grandstand. We might even get some news tomorrow, you know, or in Qatar. We might be getting some news at this Grand Prix weekend, but we're here for it. We'll find out. So yeah, that's basically a quick update on Alpine. So yeah, I always forget to close the polls before I end the show. Right, I'm going to end the poll. Look at this. Did you get... So, the poll result. This was a close one. Can you believe it? 25 votes. Is it time to prioritise Lando over Piastri? 52% of you said yes. And 48% of you said no. That is a 50-50. Splits the room, doesn't it? Yeah, it's interesting. We'll find out, won't we? We'll see this weekend. We'll be able to tell by from the team radio for a start. We'll know if there's been unofficial team orders. We'll know if Piastri is playing the game. We'll know by the tyres they put him on, right? At the start of the Grand Prix. Orlin says Alpine did not bring anything this year. They've been saving everything towards next year. Alpine stopped any upgrades, I think, about the 4th round, 5 or 6. Certainly in the first half of the season, they said, look, we have to put all our resources to 26, which they've done. And actually, Pierre Gasly seems pretty happy with the work they've done at Alpine. And they will have the Mercedes power unit. That's a massive advantage. It's a massive advantage. For what we can see so far, the Mercedes power unit is going to be really good. So, and if you remember, McLaren have been running a Mercedes power unit, and look how dominant they've been this year. You know, Mercedes supplying that. It's all. I always find it strange. McLaren are dominant with the Mercedes engine. Mercedes with the Mercedes engine are fighting for second place in the constructors, a long, long way behind. Yeah, it's interesting how that can happen. Who knows? Maybe Alpine can do that next year. If they do, I'll eat my hat, because I agree with Triple X. It's a long road. It's a long road. It could be 4 years. Sorry. Yeah, Red Bull took 4 years with Adrian Newey. Alpine could take longer. I agree with Chef. It could be 4 years. If they have Horner and they find the next Adrian Newey, whoever that is, I don't know who it is. Probably someone at McLaren, right? I'm guessing. Somebody at McLaren right now. It's probably some kid on a CAD machine that nobody knows who's the next Adrian Newey, secretly just, you know, busting out amazing aero for McLaren. But yeah, we'll see. So it's going to be an interesting one. 26. I can't wait for 26. Cannot wait for it. But yeah, so that's been tonight's show. And what we solved? Should McLaren favour Lando for the last 2 races of the season over Piastri? Have we resolved it? The short answer is no. 50-50. 50% of you say yeah, it's time to favour Lando, and 50% of you say no. Thank you for that. We've not resolved it whatsoever. But thank you to everyone who's been in the chat. It's been a really fun show tonight. Watch out for bulletins tomorrow. Make sure you have subscribed if you haven't already. If you have enjoyed the video, smash a like on it. Hit the notification bell so you stay up to date with any content. And I'll see you all. Oh, by the way, tomorrow night is predictions, baby. Have all your predictions ready for Qatar. We're doing driver of the weekend, dipstick of the weekend, top 5 drivers. Who you think is going to be top 5 in the race? It's going to be a good one. So tomorrow night is your Qatar preview show, 7:30. Make sure it's in your diary. You don't want to miss it. I want to see all those predictions in the chat. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow. Ta-ta.